Welcome to the Proactive Adventure Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm coming off of a day where I did 21 miles and about 8,000 feet of elevation, but I'm sitting here with somebody who I think would look at that as almost a walk in the park. I see him doing multiple double digits, crazy runs, crazy hikes on the regular. Jason Friedman, welcome.
How's it going?
Going all right. Where are you coming from right now?
Coming from the giant stairs in State Line Lookout.
Nice.
Beautiful hike, beautiful day, hot. So we were just doing the whole loop, one loop, and a lot of people out there for the first time.
Nice. Busy today, right?
Yeah, pretty good crowd.
I'm sure it was. I'm interested in you because I remember when you first came out on a hike with us, you registered for a really easy 2-mile hike. And that was the first time I met you.
Yeah.
And I did not expect that you had all these crazy accomplishments in your basket. It was February 10th, 2019. Were you already doing long runs and everything at that point?
Yeah. So at that point, I was actually probably that day in Northern Green just to go do a run. Then I saw this event, and I'd never seen more than 3 people at a time up there. So it's like, oh, this looks like a lot of fun. We went up with the guys to the top, big group.
We had a big group that day.
Yeah. I was pretty excited because I've always been looking for different groups that like going to these remote spots.
Mm-hmm.
And up to that point, I was just doing a lot of things solo.
Gotcha.
So after a while, you just want to find a group.
People in our group had that same experience where everybody was doing solo stuff. It comes to a certain point where you're like, I want to share this with other people.
Definitely. Different vibe.
Totally a different vibe.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You get out there and you can share stuff. You can share snacks.
Memories.
Yeah, definitely.
When you were a kid, were you an athlete?
I didn't really get into any kind of working out or running or anything until high school.
Until high school. What happened then?
I was actually in the band, and that was kind of a sport in itself. Our band, we went out with the football team on the field, and they were doing their workouts, and we're over there like 50 feet away from them doing these routines. And I remember it just was intense, just being out there in like this full uniform. After that, I kind of went through I wanted to get into some different hobbies. So I just started getting into cross country.
Okay.
And cross country, it just kicked me. It just kicked me. And from that point on, I kind of started just doing this as a habit. Yeah.
Did you quit the band when you joined the team?
I quit the band, and that was tough. You can't do both at the same time.
That's right.
And unfortunately, I stopped playing the sax. I used to play saxophone.
Uh-huh.
I've always wanted to go back to that. I wish I kind of continued on with playing music.
Trying to juggle both.
Yeah. My coach was really cool. It was very laid back. So after that, I went into college. I did a semester in this little school in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Florida, so they had us going for these 10-mile runs at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and it was already 85 degrees. So you had these like armadillos all over the place, just pop out of the woods.
That's something you don't see around here.
Yeah, you see that thing for the first time. It's a dinosaur. I did that for a little bit, but then I just kind of always kept up that.
So you kept that habit going.
Yeah.
Did you start hiking? When did you start doing that?
Not until recently, but like 10 years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I kind of found different spots around here when I first moved here. I started going to Alamucci a lot. Alamucci is near where I used to live, so it had like a remote spot, had a good climb in it, and there was a group out there that met at a bar. They used to call it salt shakers. So you go for a run, a hike, and you come back and you get a free beer. It used to be like a weekly thing.
Uh-huh.
So
where did you live before you moved here?
So I grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
I've lived recently in Morristown area.
Yep.
I was in Randolph before then.
Gotcha.
So always been in New Jersey for about like 15 years.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
You're from New Jersey now. So like you started doing those hikes early on. They weren't intense ones, I'm sure, right? When you started, or were they?
Well, the first one, it was like 2009. And a buddy of mine, I remember because the Olympics were happening in China. And we're like, you know what? Let's just grab a couple of gallons of water. And like each of us put the gallon in a Jansport backpack. And maybe a couple the power bars back then. It No, like gels
Power bars.
that I remember.
I remember power bars.
Just stretch them apart.
Oh yeah, they're like taffy.
They're actually, I like them better now. It just like reminds me of those days a
Uh-huh.
little bit. And we saw that to hike from, I think, Blue Rocks to Delaware Water Gap in one day. And I think we got about 3/4 of a mile in. Somebody lost a pair of shoes. The jugs of water, they started kind of like coming out. Backpack broke, and we kind of abandoned that. We were trying to be superstars.
Trying to be intense as you could at that point, right?
Yeah,
So that was your first hike out there, first intense hike?
that's it. That was the beginning.
That was the beginning. Obviously enjoyed that feeling though.
It just humbled us. We hurt, like everything hurt.
Uh-huh.
It was even the upper body. I don't know why, like the shoulders.
I do recall that too. When I first started hiking, every muscle in my body would be in pain afterward for days.
Yeah.
And it's funny how that kind of wears off over time. Like you feel it in less and less places depending on what you're doing.
It's like a trophy.
Yeah, yeah,
in
right,
that-
exactly.
in that pain, yeah.
I look for that now.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if I don't get it, I feel like I didn't do anything.
You got to you could keep upping the ante.
You got to keep upping the ante, which brings me to what you're going to be doing in 6 days, Fat Dog race.
Yeah, I'm headed to British Columbia, and there's a 122 something mile. I'm gonna call it a fast pack.
Okay.
They call it a run or a race. I don't think I'm gonna run a single step. You know,
You're just going to be moving.
Yeah.
That's a long way.
There's like Alberta. I was wanting to explore the middle of Canada, but it looks really beautiful and like relatively affordable to get to.
I'm sure it's beautiful. This is the first time you're obviously going over there.
Yeah.
And I know you've done other races multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kept seeing on your Strava like Breakneck Marathon number 5, Manitow's Revenge number 5.
Some of them are hard to not go back to. They keep getting fancier. Like more people join in, and the finish line becomes more and more appealing. And they have a what's that finish, like the chute?
What would it be called, like an arch
Yeah.
type of thing?
Yeah, yeah. And the food is like, you think about the food all day.
What caught your attention about the Fat Dog?
I have a friend up there who did it years ago. Every year I try to do one of these like really long events. And after last year, I kind of wanted to try something more like self-sufficient. The thing about this one is it's more remote, so you have to actually carry emergency gear, not because you're going to use it, but you might, if in case you're immobilized or
Yeah.
you need something that you can just sit there and you won't freeze or get hypothermic. So this is kind of going from a run hike to more of like, okay, move it 3 miles an hour, average for the whole time.
Yeah.
And you'll finish. And like it's more remote, so you're not gonna see cars. You might be in bear country a little bit.
Oh yeah, way different than like over at Breakneck.
Yeah.
Way different.
Might be more bears at Breakneck. I don't know. Like,
I guess you'll find out.
yeah.
What was the first time you did a hike over 30 miles? Or a run? I could say a run or a hike.
The Pemi loop,
When was that?
2010.
2010. So we're going back like 13 years.
The old school, we didn't have really good reception. It was cool. It was full backpack.
Yep.
It took us 3 days. I recommend it because you get to stay at these campgrounds that have platforms and springs, and it's like a community campground and a caretaker, and it's a really awesome hike.
A couple of the guys from the group just went over there. I still have not been up there. But they just did it in a couple of days. They camped out there. They got heavily rained on, but they enjoyed it. It was a good time still.
Yeah, that might be pleasant if you get like a nice warm rain.
So you did the Pemi 13 years ago. So that's like a backpacking trip, really, right? Like you're camping out and all that. When do you get the inkling that you want to go for like a big run?
I wanted to get in a Boston Marathon. I started training really hard. I tripped over a curb. I thought I had a concussion, checked it out. I was okay, but I had to take like 3 months off. And so I'm just messing around. I'm getting into running then, racing. I found some trail races nearby. And I saw a beautiful webpage of a guy, Ian. You might know who that is, yeah. He does the Breakneck. But before he had all that, he had one race called the Virgil Crest up in New York near like Syracuse. And the webpage was so beautiful. So it was a 50 mile, and I couldn't perceive what a person is supposed to do to even like prepare for it. Over the next summer, I found all kinds of local races. There's this one company, NJ Trail Series. You just kind of go up and down Mountain Creek. Is it a ski slope in Jersey? And you do that as many times as you can in a time frame.
There you go, some repeats.
Yeah, some wicked, like in the sun, complete exposure sun, late July, and we had those hats with the covering all around.
Oh yeah, sun hat, nice sun hat.
Sun hat. And every time you got to the bottom, you get to hang out in the bar. So the bar at Mountain Creek was at the bottom every time, and you had a chance to just like fill up if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. Get some juice and just like get maybe a beer if you wanted to, and then go up and repeat. So I started looking for those kind of events because to me, like I didn't think I'd survive it. I don't know if I'd get halfway. But the training for it, I loved it because I got to see myself get a little better. I got to go to these places and like explore all the trails around me, and I had a plan, like a training plan. And I guess I'm the kind of person that I love to have a plan and just go as much as I can into it and see what happens. I met some people there, and this was like 2010, and you look back and you have pictures. You see like race pictures, and they're really, really good pictures, and you like kind of get nostalgic about it. And so I guess like I started looking around, and I found dozens of others like those. I always liked remembering first time.
Yeah.
And you keep trying to I kept trying to go back and find like a similar feeling I got.
Like that. Chasing that high, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you do the Boston Marathon?
Event, yeah. A couple of years later, that year, there was no way I was going to. Yeah.
I do like how you had an issue, you couldn't get to the Boston Marathon that year, and then your next thing that you were thinking about was like, well, I'll just double that and do like a 50-mile. Yeah. Do a 50-mile run. Yeah. That's commendable. I like that.
I like it was on grass.
Different vibe.
Yeah.
Like running 50 miles on grass or 50 miles on pavement.
Yeah, it really was on grass. Like it starts and ends on grass.
Just on grass,
the whole time. Yeah.
That's actually like a luxury.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it feels good. Like it feels good in the feet. You feel like you can walk on it barefoot. Yeah.
One thing I noticed about your Strava, because I always tell people if there was an actor here, I would look at his IMDb and be like, I saw that you did this film and that film. But it's like for all of us, I keep looking at everybody's Strava. And I'm like, I looked at see what you've done in the past. And your training style is you don't overblow yourself every time you go out for a run. Simple run, bam, like 50 miles. And then like simple run, and another big one, What is your training regimen like?
It depends on what I'm getting ready for.
Okay.
I've tried to follow this plan the past 10 years. I found something online where you increase your miles and how hard you work, and you always throw in a speed work a couple days a week. Mm-hmm. And I always like lifting weights. I feel like that I would do even if I wasn't running. I always wanted to be fast, but I never got there. So I started taking out the speed work, and I just like hill repeats I like the feeling of intensity.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
It like sets your whole night up, and you just feel relaxed and everything.
Totally.
It's like a drug, man.
100%. I know. And like I said, after what I did yesterday, I got that high. It's such a great feeling.
Did you get to Cold Spring? Go to Cold Spring?
I did not go to Cold Spring, but like by the time I was done, my legs were just not cooperating with me.
Yeah, you tapped out. Yeah.
I did the whole thing, tapped out, drove home.
That's awesome.
Never happened to me like that before. I've gotten delusional. I've gotten really messed up. But like everything else felt fine except the legs. They were like, no.
Yeah. You took yourself to the limit.
I took myself to the limit yesterday, yeah. Which I always find funny when you're doing repeats, and you're probably familiar with this too. If you're doing a repeat and you're on your fifth and somebody shows up at that same trail for their first hike of the day or whatever, or the first run of the day, and they see you and you look like hell just starting out. I always wonder, like, are these people just looking at us like, oh, these people have no business out there. They're out of shape. Like, what are they doing out here? But little do they know you've already done it, 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
It's just, you get those funny looks where they're just like, what's this guy's sweating already? He just came up the stairs. You know what I mean?
You look like a demon coming down, yeah.
I can comprehend like 35 miles, 40 miles. I know how that feels, and I get that. How do you feel after a 100-mile run? Because that high must be magnified or multiplied.
Yeah, the thing is, I try to remember this every time. I've done about 10 or 11. of various difficulty. Nothing insane. Nothing like, there's one called Hard Rock that's out in Colorado at 13,000, 14,000 feet. It's got the altitude and everything. I remember, like, you get done, and sometimes it's anticlimactic in that you've been thinking about this all day from a certain point, and you're done, and you're like, okay, so I plan to do what? A plan? It's like to either, I gotta get to the bathroom, or to sleep, or to the bar, whichever one is closest.
Uh-huh.
The last one I did, I had friends come up and meet me in Colorado. It was awesome. They paced me, and we get done, and we had about 6 hours to play with.
Yeah.
Before we had to get to sleep. The flight was the next day. So we're like, okay, there's 2 bars open. And this is a small town in Colorado, Leadville, Colorado. There's like one really good saloon. So we went. We actually ran into people that we saw on the course, and we just had a beer and just sitting there like dirty, playing pool. It was like, okay, this is kind of like how I like to relax normally. And how my body feels is I kind of get to the point where the fatigue builds up over the whole thing. So I feel kind of like numb. The lower body feels numb. You're tired, but even if I get to the point in some of these where I'm sleepwalking, where I start falling asleep while I'm walking.
Okay.
I get to the end, and all of a sudden you're jolted.
That's something
Yeah.
I could. Okay, that makes sense to me, because I do feel like when you get to the end of anything bigger or more difficult, like you do get a second wind.
Yeah.
Your brain immediately knows, like, when you're done working. Do you have a favorite hike or race that you've done?
Definitely the one I keep going back to for some reason, Leadville.
Okay.
Leadville 100 in Colorado.
David Goggins talked about Leadville a lot.
Yeah, I remember, because every time I try to do it, that's not the year the famous people are there. So I get a kick out of, because you pass people, it's out and back.
Yeah.
So I remember Scott Jerk, he's a famous ultra runner. He passed me one year. That was pretty cool. And then a few other people that are famous. And I look back, I don't know who that is. And then you Google it, and you're like, oh, that was, okay, cool.
Yeah. Why Leadville?
It was the first one, and it was really a big deal for me 12 years ago. At the time, I was using it actually to fundraise for the MS Society, and I had to do it. People were hooking me up through Facebook, and it really did well, and I was like, this is like a job. So
You're on a mission at that point.
I started waking up early, things I never did, and getting out there and just trying not to get hurt. And I needed to be successful because I was raising money. I felt like raising money added an extra element of seriousness to it.
Definitely.
And I like regimented training. What it had was like a number of miles per week, certain workouts, lifting weights, like a schedule. And you had to get to the end, you had to do a legitimate month-long taper. And I was still 29, so I could do this stuff and recover a lot better than these days. So it was successful. And I had a friend come out who like used to live in Jersey, and they moved to Colorado. And him and his wife were really good with like photos and video. So they created a YouTube video, an album of pictures, paced me. I don't think I could have done it without him, because at a certain point, it was like mile 75. He came and he started giving me goos. And I didn't know that these goos had like the 3x caffeine.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I went from zombie apocalypse, just straggling on the trail, like weaving, falling asleep, to, hey, what are you watching on Netflix?
How much money do you wind up raising for MS?
I think it was like $1,300.
That's not bad. And why did you pick that?
Well, so my mom has MS.
My mother had MS. That's why I'm asking. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, it's a few people now that have mentioned that one of their family members has
Wow,
MS. So.
yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, it was just like 10 years before that, or not even 10 years before that. And I started doing walks, MS walks, which are great. They have teams, and you can like get together with the team to raise money for the walk. And it seemed like it makes sense, because I've seen people raise money with big events, and they seem to do really well. So this one was like, okay, this is the first time doing it. I didn't know how to network, but Jen from New Jersey Trail Series did something with Facebook, and just all of a sudden one day I woke up 50 donations from everywhere.
You got to hook up.
Yeah. It was really cool. I want to do something like that again soon. It'd be cool to get back into that.
Yeah, I think so. I should work something like that out.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you have your eyes on going forward? Is there something that I know you have the Fat Dog coming up, but is there something beyond that, or are you just focused on Fat Dog right now?
I really get into the big famous races, but I have this weird thing about Leadville. I haven't big buckled, which is 25 hours, and I think I have to do something special. I have to get coaching. Kind of obsessed with it because it finishes at night. So to finish before the sun comes up, timing is perfect at 25 hours. Once you're over that, you start seeing the sun. There's a few others like Barkley Marathons is this underground. It's a navigational kind of hunt for books that's out in Tennessee with briar bushes and unpredictable bushwhacking. It's supposedly between 120, 130 miles.
And you have to navigate yourself and find things?
Yeah, you don't get a GPS. You're not allowed to have a GPS. You just have a compass, a Timex, and your own personal made map you create on your own.
Wow. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, because, on these long races, your brain sometimes just shuts off and your legs just keep moving. But, that, you would have to actually pay attention, focus, and, use your brain to figure out where you're going.
I'm kind of obsessed with it because there's a couple documentaries on it, and they're pretty good. There's only been, 15 finishers or so since it existed in 30 years. So it's just stupid hard. And
So that's, exclusive.
Yeah. I don't even know how to get in. I've if anybody out there wants to help me out.
Get this man into the Barkley race trail hunt.
A lot of these races, there's one out in Europe called UTMB, and it's 100 and something. But you can actually go out there and do it as just a hike, like a multi-day hike. And the course is designed to see the coolest parts of these trails. And you could just kind of find the route and go out and create it on your own.
Just take your time doing it, enjoy it.
Yeah. I like that. I like that aspect of it.
Have you done any hiking in Europe?
No, never been to Europe.
No. I'd like to.
Yeah. You have any idea in where in Europe you want to start?
Iceland is one place that is on my list of places to go.
Yeah.
That I'd like to get to eventually. And then I have a little bit of interest in the Italian Alps. And do you have a favorite place around here to do things in?
Yeah. For some reason, I didn't discover this until recently. I went down to Round Valley Reservoir, and it's really quiet. You can kayak, and it's good trails. You're kind of near a couple little cool towns, too. Check it out one time. It's down near Bridgewater, Lebanon. Actually, a little different. I like Rockaway Beach. They give surfing lessons there.
You do surfing?
I tried once.
Okay.
They hold the board for you. Simon, have you surfed?
I have not. I'm familiar with Forgetting Sarah Marshall. In that movie, they have a scene about showing somebody how to surf, so I'm vaguely familiar with it.
Successful? I haven't seen it.
Yes, he does wind up being. It's a good movie though. Check it out at some point.
How easy it is when someone holds the board.
Now I kind of want to ask, why do you run?
A release of stress. I've thought about it before, but it really relieves stress. I feel centered after I can think over problems, and I like the sense of community, especially if you live in New York City. You can find a group every day of the week to do some run somewhere. It's my preferred form of exercise. I find it if you go to the gym and lift weights and stuff, it feels good too on a different way. Just going for a run, I feel like it clears out all the I don't know if toxins is the right word, but I feel cleaned out. My veins feel cleaned out.
I 100% agree with you on that. I have the same trouble explaining it the same way you are. It feels like it does get all the toxins out and just cleans your body out, and you sweat out all whatever you don't want in there.
Yeah. I think that is it. Sometimes I feel like I can burn off yesterday's bad meal, or maybe that's not the healthiest thing to do is to think of it in that terms. That may be the thing that I keep doing it for is just to kind of keep at my weight and clear out my veins. And it might just come down to I feel like it keeps your health, even just a tiny bit, even if it's just walking or biking, stuff like that. It just keeps your your mental clear.
To like reset myself from the day before.
Yeah.
And I do feel a million times better once I do. And yes, my mind is clear and my body feels good.
Yeah.
But you seem to like the social aspect of like going out there.
Yeah.
Meet people, and you like to go get the like food at the bar afterward, or
Yeah.
it's all part of the experience for you.
It seems like the bars around or the restaurants around, like Cold Spring, Beacon, even Harriman, they're like designed for that. You come in and you just get the gigantic fries, and they're really, really good.
Oh, they're definitely catered towards like people that are out there on the mountains.
Yeah, and Beacon has really amazing pizza.
I've got good donuts in Beacon.
Yeah,
You go there and you order the donuts, and they put the toppings on there for you.
dude. Yeah.
I was with Spence and Vanessa, and Spence was like, I'm going to go grab some donuts for the family. I think it's called glazed over donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the spot. Yeah, and you go and you pick your toppings, and they make you the donuts. And they're fresh and they're warm when you get them. It's a good spot.
Yeah, it's like 1,000-calorie donut. I love it.
What would be your advice if somebody wanted to start doing what you're doing?
Oh, the same thing that happened to me is you might want to go do too much, which is cool because muscles recover. But what happened to me, I've been through every kind of tendinitis, and you can't really feel tendinitis happening. So it might happen and then set you back because it can get very painful. But it's like a muscle; it just heals up slower. And strength, I think strength training, just keeping strength training just even a little bit every week kind of pads you from developing tendinitis. Yeah, that could be bro science as much as anyone wants to be.
But you're basically saying kind of keep pushing ahead.
Yeah, it's relatively cheap. You don't even need any kind of crazy special trail shoes. And yeah, that's kind of how it happened to me. I just got a little bit fitter really quickly because it forces you to work hard, and it just happens naturally.
That's the thing I always try to get across to people. Do more and more and more, and
Yeah.
get in better shape as you go along.
Yeah. Like they say the low intensity stuff, the steady low intensity is really good. It increases your ability to take in more oxygen over time. I think when I first started, I went really hard. I tried to put a personal record every time I went out, and I got hurt. I got tendinitis from that. So I think just like over time going into it, but taking it easy, and not trying to really have any crazy goals at first. It's like getting used to it for the first time was really helpful. So I have a lot of problems with heartburn and with stomach and getting things to digest, but I have a relatively strong stomach. I can keep it down. So I eat a lot during these, and I eat a lot of weird stuff. Not weird stuff, but weird combinations. I don't like potatoes, but that's the best thing for you.
A lot of carbs.
A lot of carbs. It's just pure carbs, and you're supposed to eat simple carbs. But I love candy, and they always have brownies and cookies and M&Ms and Twizzlers. But then they have wholesome things like peanut butter and jelly, and potatoes and just bread.
Yeah.
And coffee, and maybe some fruit. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll be healthy, maybe I'll be a little bad, just mix it all up. And the stomach is like, oh, okay. I guess I'm gonna throw some acid on this and see what happens. And so I drink the coffee. I love coffee.
Same.
And it's like it's long enough. These things are long enough. You have to wait. I have to wait till a certain point before I can utilize the caffeine. So like I'll eat all this stuff. I'll get done, and it's kind of just sitting there. It's like waiting for blood to come back and from your legs and digest. So it takes me like 5-6 hours before I even want to even eat or drink.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the stomach is.
Yeah, there's definitely that's interesting. You would imagine after like 100 miles, the first thing you'd want to do is eat.
Yeah.
But I know it doesn't always go that way.
Yeah, no, it's like I just want to feel normal.
Yeah.
It's like salt. For some reason, salt tastes amazing. Just throw some seasoning on it. My friend told me I should have bread for the heartburn because it absorbs the liquids and the acid and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
So I guess if you had heartburn, find a loaf of bread.
Eat a loaf of bread. Good tip. Do you do yoga?
Yeah, I'm starting to think that yoga is kind of necessary as a counterbalance. I'm not sure, but I think when you hike, a lot of hiking, a lot of running, you tense up, and your muscles align up, your fibers line up in a certain way, and then you can't be flexible. Like, I like hot yoga. It's really awesome to finish up a hard, like hour 15 long yoga session.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you do that too, right?
Like yoga's my go-to workout, really, aside
Yeah.
from hiking and running and calisthenics. But I usually mix in yoga with calisthenics. And so do you meditate?
I try to do it regularly. I used to do something that I found online from Wim Hof, a certain breathing exercise that is pretty hard because you start to feel like a tingling in your fingers, but it's supposed to clear you out mentally at the beginning of the day. And I felt like it was just as good as a cup of coffee. It took like 10 minutes in the morning.
Well, that's the cool thing about it, because I also meditate. It's just amazing, like, the little things you can do.
Yeah. Can I offer what's worked for me?
Please.
I heard this somewhere that if you have a thought, treat it as if it's a cloud. You're sitting on a bench and there's a cloud and just the cloud is passing you by. And then all of a sudden that will remove the thought from your brain. And then anytime another thought comes up, it's another cloud. And it seems to work for me. And then over 10, 15 minutes, I have my eyes closed and I'm thinking of this process and trying to feel my breathing a little bit. I'm like, wow, this is cool. I'm not thinking anything. I'm like, wait a minute, that's a thought.
You're getting there when you're starting to say, like, oh, that's a thought, and then you, like, throw it aside. Is there any piece of equipment specifically that you recommend or use on a routine basis?
Oh, yeah. I love the Solomon skin packs. And they're kind of relatively recent within the past couple of years.
Uh-huh.
They allow you to stretch and breathe. There's no straps. There's just these wires that you pull. But they're really durable. If you're going out and you need hydration, you can flip around this hose through the underside of the pocket. And then there's a little magnet that you can attach from some other pack.
Yeah.
And then you won't have anything, chafing you. These packs, there's no friction, and they're awesome if you're doing something like for several hours.
That's Solomon, you said?
Yeah, Solomon. How about you? You have one?
If I had to pick a piece of equipment, I would just say my boots. Merrell Moabs are basically the only boot that I like to use. The way they fit, the way they feel, they're durable enough. But that boot works for me. It's comfortable, my go-to boot.
Nice.
And like after yesterday, those boots that I had on yesterday are absolutely destroyed today. So I'm going to have to get on that.
It can get expensive. So if you're looking for gear or if you need some cheaper options, Google it. They always have like Running Warehouse and certain discounted prices on things that are older models, like older shoes that are just as good. And you can save like $50-$60 on some gear.
It's a good piece of advice. I think that probably does make some people hesitant to do this stuff when they just start looking at all the equipment they're supposed to have.
Oh, yeah.
And I do feel like it turns some people off,
Yeah, man.
There was a hike that we did that you had registered for, and then I thought you didn't show up for it.
Yeah.
And I think you had started running before we got out there. It might have been one of the Beacon Bullies.
Beacon Bully.
And we met you at the end. I think that was in like 2021.
Yes. That was Pop 10.
We'll just say
Pop 10.
Pop 10, Papaloppin.
Yeah, I'll work on that.
That one might have been like the first big one that you signed up for with us. And then like you just killed it.
Oh, yeah.
At Beacon, it was like a 20-mile route.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of intercepted us.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
ever since then, I had a joke, like, if you're signed up for a hike, we should expect to see you, like, pop out of a hole in, like, the middle of the trail and go running past us.
That's my excuse for sleeping in. And there was someone that was really struggling, but they made it.
That was Joel.
Joel, yes, sir.
We wound up scrambling down Breakneck in the dark. And I remember watching him from the road, seeing his headlamp just coming down the mountain.
Yeah.
That was a good moment, though. And now that guy's jumping out of planes and doing rock climbing.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm pretty impressed by that. Now, we brought up Pop 10. Pop 10 is one of my favorite days that we've ever had since we started Proactive. Just the vibe that day was so great. I remember we started very early and just we knocked that out so fast.
It was just instant. You were carrying a rock.
Carried that rock at the end, that's right.
And every time we got up to the top, it was still snow, right? There was still snow everywhere.
Yes.
So you saw kind of like where we were before.
Yep.
Yeah, something about doing repeats. I don't know. It's a very appealing thing.
It is. It is. Some people don't like it. I know some people don't like doing the repeats. Some people need like to keep seeing new things. But I just like that. When was your first repeat?
Tammany?
Tammany?
Yeah, that's always been a really easy spot, 3 miles long.
So yeah, I know you do a lot of repeats at Tammany. How many is the most repeats you've done of Tammany?
There's a thing every year called the Tammany 10. So it's a race, and you do 10 loops, and they give you a time limit of like 12 hours. So 10, I've known someone who goes there and kind of lives there, and this guy might be like in his mid-70s.
Wow.
And he's a regular fixture of Tammany. You always see him there if you go a certain time of day. He's probably up to 75,000. Like, he's been doing it for years and years and years and years. I knew somebody that did it like overnight too, and they made it a 24-hour thing.
The feet of elevation add up like that so quick.
Yeah, it's a really good place to just, if you like getting vert in and you want to get that practice, it's really cool for that.
I think that's why the repeats are so appealing too. Evidently, you're doing it in a place where you have a big climb.
Yeah.
And so like every time you hit that climb, you're like, oh, 500 feet, 500 feet, 500 feet. It just adds up so quick.
And then you're on a plane, and they go to 10,000 feet, and you're like, okay, we're at 10,000 feet, and you look down, it's like, what?
Yes.
Like, you can't conceive it in the 30,000 feet where Everest would be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look possible that a mountain could be at that height.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny that you bring that up, because yesterday, after I finished the Breakneck 7.5, I looked at the elevation on Strava, and I'm like, oh, 8,500 feet or whatever.
Yeah.
Now it's at Freedom Tower, 1,700 feet.
Yes.
And then, like, you just look at it, and you think, okay, I've done more than 4 times of that. It really is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But aside from running, hiking, outdoors, exercise, what else are you interested in?
I love sports, playing sports. I used to be into watching like hockey, football, baseball when I was younger. And every time I go to like a Yankees game, I get a chance to go to like a Yankees game, I get into it and I'm like, I want to learn all the players again. I like beach volleyball. Anytime a beach volleyball game breaks out, it's like the best. And music, I like seeing underground music. I love a good music festival. I recommend Peach Fest. It's like a jam. It's in Montage Mountain in Scranton. It's mostly jam bands. Yeah.
Concerts are one of my favorite things to do outside of this.
Best show you've ever seen?
I saw a band called Alt J. Are you familiar with Alt J? They were amazing.
Yeah.
Everybody was enthralled by it. And it was a great show. They sounded just like they do on the records, and I thought it was my favorite show to date.
I love that when the sound is exactly the same. You're like,
So good.
oh. Yeah, I've been into the Dave Matthews Band. I want to get into more like jazz, get to the Blue Room more. The Jazz Fest in Montclair, if that's going on soon. They have best, I don't know even who these artists are, just kill up there. Live jazz is incredible.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an engineer. I work for an Army base up in Jersey. Basically project management and some developmental stuff. I've always wanted to get into civil engineering.
Word association. Challenges.
Anytime.
Doubt.
Figure it out.
Running.
Knees.
Leadville.
Air.
Mountains.
Beauty.
Limits.
Unlimited.
Food.
Chipotle.
Breakneck.
Unbreak it.
Racing.
Sauntering.
Music.
Jamming.
Motivation.
Coffee.
Pain.
Good.
Recovery.
Better.
And the last one, trails.
Awesome. We did it.
Well, thanks for coming all the way out here to Long Island City to do this.
Yeah, thanks for coming out here all the way too.
Yeah, we both came from Jersey, so I guess we had the same trip basically.
Yeah.
But it's been really good talking to you, and
Likewise.
I hope we do this again at some time.
Definitely. Happy Labor Day, if this comes out before Labor Day. Thanks for setting up all this stuff, man. This has been like you've been working on this for years.